Well, hello investors and traders, I'm LA Little. This is your daily NeoTA wrap. Take a look at these markets, doing it from a Neoclassical perspective. We're looking at supply and demand on the charts, folks. We're using that information to make decisions about how to trade our portfolios in a safer, more effective manner. As far as these markets, we had a kind of a topsy-turvy day, if you will. And let's take a look at the numbers here, and then let's get into the charts. So the NDX actually trades up, as does the NASDAQ. 0.2, 0.2, 0.2 on the Russell as well. And I think the S&P was down slightly, yeah, 2 points. And if we look elsewhere overseas, we had sell downs elsewhere. We got some strength coming in tonight overseas. Gold was up again today. It's up there pushing those highs again, the recent ones. Oil was flat, bonds were up. If you look at the indexes themselves, what you're going to see here is a continuation to some extent of that push to the downside. But today the buyers showed up, right? So you come down here, you push to the downside, you get up under this last swing point low, but you can't hold under it. You push back over it, you close back up. Now we were slightly down on the day. We actually had a little bit more volume than we did on Friday, so you went under back over, but more volume. So that doesn't really change anything in terms of the way these numbers look. In terms of whether it should trade up or down, it still could trade back down. But if you look elsewhere, it's a different story. If you look at the NASDAQ's under, back over, less volume. NDX, same thing. They try to trade it down, and the buyers come in. And if you look at the Russell, you have the same thing there as well. So what it looks to me like, from this perspective at least, is that we have a market where they've pushed again, and they can't push it down. 4 days last week, or 3 days last week, another one this week. That looks to me like you're going to see a reversal bounce. How far can it carry? Well, you always look back to your swing point lows. This swing point low break here was underneath this bar. So essentially, if we take that one, and we're on the Russell right now, that's the range that you're in on the Russell. And you can see that little top up there where we were last week is the key spot. If you get over that, you can get a run right back up to the top up here. So I think this is the key area on a key index, which has been the weakest of the group. If we go back to the NDX and the NASDAQ, and we can look at just one or the other, it's the top of the breakdown bar. If we move back over the S&P, if these others do move up, which they look like they want to, the S&P will try to do the same. It will have the bearish retest regen, and your focus should be on the intersection of those two, which is right about there. So around 2370. That's the way those shape up. If you go over to the sectors, this is one of the reasons I believe we are going to see that bounce. Anywhere you look here, you saw under, back overs, less volume almost across the board. And so there's biotech. Biotech undercuts this big bar, gets back over it. If you look at almost any of them, here's the financials. All of them did the same sort of thing. They went under some bar of significance that was a low and then back over it. So all of those are set up the same way. If we look at individual stocks, there was a lot of stocks that were making moves that looked interesting to me. The one that really caught my eye today, and this is because this is sold off so much, was the basic material stocks. If we look at the XLB, for example, on this stock, or actually the ETF, you trade under the swing point lows. You actually trade under this big bar, which was the big bar up. You flip it right back around. You do less volume than you did yesterday. This looks like a turn to me. And I wanted to take a look at the XME as well, because the XME, I suspect, set up basically the same way, and it did. Tried to get under the swing point low. Buyers came in, they bought it. These things have sold down tremendously from where they were. So that's $6 off of 35. If we do the math, that's somewhere around, looks like about, what, 15% or so? So it's enough now to make sense for these to try and flip around and trade higher. If I bring over the weekly chart, stretch it out here a little bit, you can see you're coming back into the swing point high. It's the first trip back after more than 6 bars. 29, let me get that low on this one, is 29.57, and this one was 29.23. Today you moved into it, 28.91. So it's the first trip back on a bullish retest regenerate on a weekly basis. And when you see that, that says more than likely this is going to get bought. And we saw that today, and the question will be is, do they pop this thing back up as a result? And given that the spread there is pretty good, I kind of like those sectors. Now, if you want to know which of those sectors make sense to go into, not so much the sectors, but individual stocks within them, you can use the tools available here at TA Today. If you're a member, of course, you can do this. If you're not a member, then you can do it elsewhere with other types of tools, but you could probably find something that's somewhat equivalent. Not equivalent in the sense that it has based on trend, but at least stocks that are in the group. For example, if we pop down to the XLB, click into that, we can go down and we can start to see stocks that are in that group. And so that gives you the opportunity, and here they come, it gives you an opportunity to go look at stocks that fall into those sectors so that you can analyze them based on trend. We can click on intermediate term trend, we can see which ones are strongest, and then of course we can click on that and pop into all those individual charts and see what each of those actually look like. So there's different ways to do this. One way certainly is the way I just showed you. There's other ways. The ideal here is that you might want to check out what is happening inside the group if you want some real beta on this bounce. That's it for tonight. Have yourself a great one. I'll see you next time. Good night.